Today we're going to learn about expressions and the pick whip tool. And to do this, we're going to create a fusion composition where we generate the Japanese flag. I picked this flag because it's two simple shapes, one on top of the other, and we want the two shapes to be connected in that they both scale and adjust in size together. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the specifications we need to follow. I learned recently that every flag has very detailed specifications as to how they should be made. It makes sense. That's how it's done in graphic design. So with the Japanese flag, the width is 3 units wide and the height is 2 units wide. And the red sun is centered and the size of it is 3/5 of the height. With that in mind, let's get started. So the objective of this lesson is to show that we want to create a macro where there's a single control to create the flag, and the control is going to be the width. And as you adjust the width of the flag, everything else should kind of scale correspondingly. Also, we'll want to add a position parameter to it so you can kind of position the flag on the screen where you'd like. First, though, let's make the flag. We'll bring in a background node, and this will be the background of the flag. So we need white and red colors to start off with. I'll display this on the left, and let's bring in another background node and make this red. Now, which red are we going to use? Let's bring up the media pool and drag in the Japanese flag and display that on the left. So there is the red that we'd like to use. So on this second background tool, we just use the eyedropper to pick the red that we need, and we no longer need the flag. So there we go. Let's rename these so it's a little easier for us to understand which is which. F2 to rename, and this one will be white background. And the second one is going to be the red circle. Now what we want to do is I'll display the white background on the left, and we have the red on the right. We want to crop both of these. This just is kind of like our color swatches that we want to work with. We now need to use the mats to be able to kind of crop both of these into the shape that we want. For the background, we want a rectangle. So let's drag that in. And for the sun, we'd like a circle. So we bring in the ellipse tool and drag that in. So now we have a white rectangle and a red circle, and we just want to put one on top of the other. So we're going to take the red circle and put it on top of the white background. And if we display this merge on the right, there we go. Now, there's a little bit of work that needs to be done here. We need to make sure all the proportions are correct. And when we do that, by the way, that's when we're going to learn how to enable expressions and use the pick whip tool. We now have the two building blocks we need. We have the white rectangle and the red circle. So we're going to use a node called the custom tool node. So if you hit shift space and you start typing in custom tool, you'll see it here. And in parentheses, you should see the keyboard shortcut. It's CT for this node. This is a good habit to get into. When you see a node that you use frequently, start to learn what the keyboard shortcut is and try using that. So for custom tool, it's CT. So I hit shift space, type in CT, enter, and there we go. Now look over at the inspector. The custom tool is kind of like your custom interface for whatever macro you'd like to create. For the flag, the main parameter we want to adjust is the width. So by default, the custom tool gives you 4 LUTs, 4 points, and 8 numbers. Way more controls than we need. We only want a single number for the width. So if you come over to the config panel here, you can expand these and select which you would like to show and which you would like to hide. We're going to basically hide almost everything, and I wish there was a faster way to do this, but this is a chance for us to get to know each other a little better. And let me uncheck, 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 almost there. So now we have a single control left, and that is number. Also over here, you can, if you on the config page, you can rename this. So I'm going to call this flag width. There we go. We now have a control, a node with a flag width control. Let's just go back to our nodes here and wire the merge node into the custom tool. So now how do we kind of make this happen? Like if we change the flag width right now, nothing's changing. The circle doesn't change in its size and neither does the white. So to make this happen, to connect those things together, let's select the custom tool first and click on the pen. The reason for doing that is when we come over here to the rectangle tool or the ellipse tool, the custom tool interface is down here. And it's going to be very useful to have that happen when you want to use the what's called the pick whip tool. Now, let's go through and rename all of our nodes to make sure they have good, decent names. Here's the rectangle one. Let's just call this flag shape. And we have ellipse one, and let's just call that circle. So we have a circle and a red, combine them together to get a red circle. Here we have a white background and a flag shape, and we combine those to get that. And here we have just a simple merge. We don't have to have merge one. And this I'm going to call controller, or controls, how about? This will be the controls for our macro. Let's come back now and we'll start with the flag shape. We would like the width of the flag to be equal to whatever number we set in the flag width controller. So how do we do that? If you come up to the width parameter here, right click, at the bottom of the pop-up, there's expression. Click that, and this shows you what the current value is. It's 0.5, but there's a little plus here. What this plus does is it allows you, if you click and drag the plus, you can drag this to any parameter on the inspector window. And what it will do is say, whatever is the value of flag width, insert it there. And the way they do that is with this expression where the first part is what is the name of the node, and the name of the node is controls. And then the other thing is for that control, what value associated with that node do we want to use? In this case, it's called number n1. Although we renamed it flag width, under the hood, it has a proper name of number n1. Now, if you look, as we adjust the flag width, we see the width of the flag width controller, I should say, we see the white rectangle does adjust its width too, but not the height. So how do we fix that? Well, the height, if you recall, is 2 units, and the width is 3 units. So if we have the width, to get the height, you multiply it by 2/3. So let's come to height, right click, and select expression. And then we're going to drag this over to the flag width. You can select it anywhere. It doesn't have to be the name or the dial or anywhere along this column, and it'll pick it. And so we're going to multiply that by 2/3. And that's what we get. So now as we adjust this dial, the height and the width of the flag changes as well. Now you'll notice this does not look very flag shaped. And the reason is we're kind of working with 2 different units. If the width is a half, for example, let's imagine the width is 0.5 and the height is 0.5. They have the same fraction, but they're different pixels, because pixels is 1 unit and percent of the dimension is something else. So what we need to do is convert from kind of like height fraction to width fraction. That's because, you know, the height is 1080, the width is 1920. So to do that, 1920 by 1080 is an aspect ratio of 16:9. And so what we need to do is to convert height to width. There's a scaling factor of 9/16 or 16/9, depending on what direction you're going. We're going this way, so we will use 16/9. There we go. So now, if we adjust the flag width dial on the control node, and keep in mind, we're adjusting this on the control node, it's automatically updating the width and the height on the flag shape node. The white background is just a solid white, and we're just kind of using the flag shape as a cookie cutter. Like with the red, it's a solid red, and we're just using the circle as a cookie cutter. So now we need to adjust the size of the circle as well. So if we click on the circle here, it has a width and a height. Let's just go ahead and right click both and select expression. Then we're going to use the pick whip tool to connect it to the flag width dial. So if you come up to width, click on the plus and drag it down anywhere you want. Same with the height. There you go. Now let's return to the media page and look at the specifications for the flag. The circle height is 3/5 of the flag height. So with that in mind, let's come back over here. And for the circle, right now the value is the width. And what we want to do is the width is like 3 units. And so to get to the height, we multiply it by 2/3. And then let's put this in parentheses. Now that we have that gives us the height, we want to multiply that by 3/5. And let's do that same thing with the height here. So we're going to multiply it by 2/3 and then 3/5. And there we go. So now if we take the flag width dial on the control node and adjust that, it now also adjusts the width and the height of the circle node, because by using the pick whip tool, we connected the value of one with the other. By the way, let's delete the width expression that we have here. We know the height and width of the circle should be the same. So we could say we want the width here to be whatever is the height. So we could do that, and that's another way to work. So there's usually different ways you could make these connections between a parameter on one node with a parameter on another. So we now have a macro that allows us with a single dial say how wide do you want this flag to be, and everything else is adjusted accordingly. It would also be nice if we could reposition the flag. To do that, select on the control node and come over to config. We have a single number control, which we called flag width. It would be good if we had a point control for the position. We could call it flag position. Come back to the controls now, and you see we have a flag position and the flag width. Once again, we're going to use the pick whip tool because we want the position of the rectangle cookie cutter, the rectangle mask, and the circle mask to be the value of the flag position. So let's come to flag shape first, and it has a center. So if you right click the center and go to expression, it's now in expression mode. So you can then go in and say, what numbers do you want to use for the center? Rather than picking them explicitly, you can now go and hunt your entire composition and find a point that you want to use that point as the center. And here we're going to take the pick whip, come down, and we want to use whatever is our flag position control. There we go. And we want to do the same thing with the circle. By the way, we can check it real quick that, yeah, right now the flag position control does adjust the white, but not the red. And that's what we're going to do now. Come to the center node, click that, right click on center and go to expression. And we now want to say we want the center of the circle mask to be whatever is the value chosen in the flag position. There we go. Now we can move left and right, up and down, and adjust the size. When you double click the name of a parameter, by the way, it resets it to the default value. The default right now is a 0. And we can talk another time about how to be able to go in and dig in and make the default whatever you would like it to be. So now we have our tool working the way we want it. To make this fully reusable, we want to turn this into a macro. So let's select all of these nodes. We're going to right click, come up to macro and say create macro. And you get this pop-up. And what this pop-up is asking is they want to know which tools you want to be made available to the people that use your macro. First, let's give the macro our name. We're going to call it the Japanese flag. And let's collapse this. So here is a list of all the different nodes that we used. We used a circle in red, the white background and the flag shape, and then we merged them and we had this control node. Everything that we need is in the control node. This is going to have the flag position and the flag width controls, and we do want an output. That way we can, when you drag it into Fusion from a different project, it'll connect with an output. Let's click close. We want to save it. And let's save this as Actually, the name is already what I'd like it to be, JapaneseFlag.setting. So we click Save, and there we go. Now what I would like to do is demonstrate how to use this. Let's go and locate the setting file we just created. Here we go. I'm on Windows and I put it in Demo Fusion. I'm going to just take the Japanese flag setting file, drag it in, and we now have what looks to be a single node tool called Japanese flag. And if you look up here, let's unpin this. And if you look at the inspector, it has only two controls, the position and the flag width. So let's go to a single display and let's display this tool. You can see that this is what's being displayed. Now we can adjust the size and the position until our heart's content. And we can go off screen even. So that is how you can use the pick whip tool, or actually to go into expression mode and use the pick whip tool to pick which values on what node you would like to use instead of actually typing them in yourselves. So I hope you found this helpful, and I will see you in the future.